10 o'clock, your time. Aaron Keck here with you in 97.9 The Hill Studios. UNC victorious over UCLA yesterday, 73-66. Moving on to the Elite Eight. That game is tomorrow. Much more on the Tar Heels with Inside Carolina Live, starting now on 97.9 The Hill.
Your hometown radio station, 97.9 The Hill. WCHL, Chapel Hill. Streaming live on chapelboro.com.
Coming to you straight from the heart of Chapel Hill in the 97.9 The Hill WCHL studios from the independent voice of UNC Sports, covering everything from Amos to Zwicker. This is Inside Carolina Live. And now the hosts of Inside Carolina Live, Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell.
Welcome in Inside Carolina Live, Saturday, March 26th. Carolina's still dancing.
Wake up, bro.
I'm awake, dude. I was working last night.
I think every Carolina fan was working last night.
Welcome back. I did shower, change clothes. Gregory Hall's over there. I'm not sure he showered.
He slept in the YouTube last night.
Hat on. Yeah, he fell asleep in the YouTube chat. Joey Powell over there. I'm Tommy Ashley. Aaron Keck on the board today. Gregory Hall, of course, getting us up and running on YouTube. Joey, they played a little basketball last night, and I tell you what, I've said this more than once this season. I've seen a lot of Carolina basketball in my lifetime, and I'm not sure I haven't been more surprised at some of the things I've seen this season than I have been in those years combined. Just an incredible second half by Caleb Love last night. Just an incredible outcome for Carolina, setting up an incredible game on Sunday at 5 o'clock.
My man. First off, shout out to you for the work you did late last night, burning the midnight oil into the wee hours of the morning. I'll give Gregory Hall some credit, but he's busy right now.
Hey, props to Gregory for sticking around and not going to Philadelphia just so he could be on the YouTube with us.
My man just wants to be around us. Who can fault him, right?
He loves young Padawan.
Once again, this team just continues to surprise. We started back in February, early February, before the Pitt game, on the Coast to Coast podcast on InsideCarolina.com, which if you are not subscribing, you need to make that happen like yesterday. Hammer that subscribe button. We started talking about the fact that this team finds a different way to manufacture different outcomes for games like no team I've ever seen. There's no same game. The old adage that Tar Heel football fans have where they've seen the same script for football games over and over again. This team is the exact opposite of that, in that every game seems to be some different result, but also achieved in a different manner. And it blows my mind. I mean, we looked last night, and you saw a team that was down, was it 3 or 4, with like a $1.40 left. I mean,
64-61.
They were down, and it was one of those, they played hard. This is what everybody kind of thought was going to happen. UCLA is probably one of the most disciplined teams I've seen in a long time. And the Tar Heels find a way to pull it out, and they finish the game on a 10-2 run. This is just, who are these guys?
What is amazing to me to watch is how far they've come. You referenced earlier in the season, and I know Coach Davis got fired up in the press conference when somebody asked him about a January game. But it's part of the story here.
It is
how they have just come so far. The point you referenced, Tiger Campbell gets a layup that makes it 64-61 UCLA with just over 2 minutes left. And they did it by getting offensive rebounds, which is how Carolina over the years has killed people and killed people's chances. UCLA does it. And then, like I said last night, and I challenge people to disagree with this. Armando Bacot's play, saving that ball, absolutely saved Carolina's season. Because I don't think, how the win probability on ESPN and all that stuff, if that play doesn't happen, it goes to the roof for UCLA because they've got the ball up 3. They're going to grind out 30 more seconds. They hit foul shots. They're confident, and Baycott makes that play. And then, Caleb Love just did Caleb Love stuff.
You know how I know that we've become good co-hosts for each other?
Because you thought the exact same thing.
When I saw, I'm going to take it a step further. When I saw that play last night, and I'm going back this morning trying to get stuff ready for the show, and I'm thinking that's going to be Tommy's favorite play from the game.
Yep. Well,
just because it's not going to go in a stat sheet. It's not going to go in any sort of highlight reel unless they extend, the play to show how Caleb Love got the ball to score. But that is just a will play. That is just a determination play. That is just a veteran deciding, hey, I ain't ready to go home yet. And you can go back and watch it on slow-mo to see just how close Big Man was to stepping out of bounds before he got that ball back in. But it's just, and also, don't let it get lost as well. What a great heads-up play by Leaky Black to be in the area for that ball to receive it. Mm-hmm. And what a great job by Caleb Love to be ready to jack it once he got it, right? Like, it just, so many things about this team are coming together, and this kind of fits into your larger point that you were making earlier. So many things about this team are coming together right now. You always want to have a college basketball team peak in March, right? That's kind of a given. But just the way things are peaking, and they're peaking within games, right? Like look at the trajectory of last night's game. You talked about that win probability, line graph that you see a lot of times on ESPN. That North Carolina could just never get over the hump, until they did, and that's not something this team, as talented as it is, would have done even at their best earlier this season. So I think what you're seeing is a team finding their momentum, not only during the course of this tournament, but during the course of games, which is just next level.
Going back to the Armando rebound, didn't it go right to Caleb's hand?
It may have.
I thought it went.
It went straight.
But they've been talking about it went to Caleb.
It went straight to Caleb, and he just went one-on-one and pulled up.
Yeah, look, at that point in the game, I don't know what I was doing. I mean, I was in between, I was in purgatory. Like, is this really going to be how it ends? You score 20-some points in the second half. You're undefeated when Caleb Love scores 20 points in a game, and Carolina's going to come up short, and then that happened. So I thought it went to Leaky first. I guess it maybe went to Caleb first. But either way, a heck of a play. There's a ton of plays in that game.
Yeah. But that's the first one.
We haven't even talked about Brady Manek's one-handed slam.
We're 7 minutes into the show, Gregory.
No, I'm not saying like in this show. I'm just saying we didn't even talk about that last night.
That was also
because it was
in the first half.
Everybody forgot about it.
But that Armando play, and I loved what Armando said after the game. He was asked about it by David Teal. Shout out Teal. But Armando was like, it was just instinctual. Like, I knew that, he said, Hubert Davis told us at the under 4 timeout that give it your all. Like, the under 4 timeout was with 3 minutes and 16 seconds to play. And it's just like, this is it, boys. Like, give it your all, and we'll be okay. So Armando saw that brick Caleb put up and just went and grabbed the ball. And we talk about Armando doing his thing and whatnot and how he's going to get his rebounds and things like that. Yeah, but that's a different type of rebound. And to have the instincts to just go get it and chuck it back, perfectly distanced, by the way, and to have the wherewithal to keep, and I'm not saying he was intentionally throwing it to Caleb. He said he wasn't. He was just trying to keep it in bounds. But we talked about
the play there is to go as close to half court as you can, because you're more likely to get your guys than if you throw it short.
Yeah, because your guys are backing off to defense. But just for him to go and grab that rebound and keep his foot in, it just shows, one, the type of rebounder that Armando really is, more than just I'm going to just win my one-on-one box out and grab 15 rebounds. Does he win his one-on-one box out more often than not? Yes, but is there a reason that Armando Baycott is one game away from tying Tim Duncan's all-time ACC double-doubles record? also yes, and that's the perfect example.
The thing about, you mentioned Caleb threw up a brick. He didn't throw up a brick. I mean, he missed it by a mile.
Yeah, it was a big.
Oh yeah, did it even touch the rim?
If it did, it barely did.
It hit. It was not close. It was not on line. It was not perfect distance. It was not close.
And I mean, just think about how the game of basketball is, and that's what makes March Madness so crazy, because it's over if something goes just slightly off. If that ball hits the rim, maybe UCLA gets the rebound. You know,
good point. They had 3 bodies in the paint.
Maybe, you know, it's just crazy how basketball works. There's so many different events that go on that lead to an outcome. Shout out to Puff Johnson for his few minutes that he played, and the getting the foul on Juzang. I guess that was in the second half. Man, it's all a blur.
And that was also that was a will play,
yep.
Right? You think about this team and where they've been at their worst this year. They've had their will broken early, and not only have we seen that kind of take a polar opposite trajectory over the last 4 or 5 weeks, we're now seeing it to where they're kind of breaking teams' wills. I think Puff Johnson going and battling for that rebound kind of felt like UNC standing up. You hear about Hubert Davis saying, you know, I want guys looking for a fight. That was a looking for a fight play. I mean, Puff, small, slight as he is compared to who he was battling against, just wasn't going to be beaten for that rebound, and you know, saves the ball for UNC. That's a big play over the course of the game that will never be remembered in 10 years, but it's absolutely crucial within the tapestry of this game for UNC to have success.
Absolutely. I mean, it was interesting about Puff. He lives, or he's from, the same area in Pennsylvania that my buddy, the Purdue fan, was there last night, and he was wondering where I was, and I said, well, I'm doing stuff here. I'm coming up Sunday if they win. And he said, I'll see you Sunday. I was like, are you worried about St. Pete? He was like, nah, not really. That dream's going to end.
And then you, being the nice guy that you are, you said what this morning?
You got any tickets?
I mean, that's what everyone thought the dream was going to end in the Sweet 16.
I mean, it's just the East region alone has been insane and
chaos.
And you know, aside from Carolina just destroying Marquette, look at how these games have been, man. It's like you are literally walking on the razor's edge to your career and season being over or advancing. And here we are. You know, I'll be honest. If we talked about this weeks ago, maybe even last week, 2 weeks ago, would we be still talking about a season going on this show today on March 26th? Nah.
I want to look at something too that I think is fairly important. I think that this team, not only have they started kind of showing how strong their will is, dude, they've started locking down on defense as well. I mean, even when UCLA was shooting so well in the first half, those were contested shots. Those were tough shots that UCLA was just making. And North Carolina just knuckled up in the second half. And you know, you talk about finishing on a 10-2 run, but I mean, UCLA's last bucket was out of the last bucket that wasn't the one they gave Tiger Campbell, you know, like with 7 seconds left on the clock, and UNC up 7 or 5 or whatever it was. UNC's last bucket was a tip-in that came off of 2 really unlucky bounces by UNC. Leakey had a steal coming out of a timeout that ended up back in UCLA's hands. And then UCLA gets a shot, misses it. It bounces off of Manick and Baycott into, I think, it may have been Juzang or Jaquez, who is 6 feet from the cup and just catches it and kind of shoves it back in. I mean, you think about even the baskets that UCLA got down the stretch were tough and they were earned. And I'm going to say this as an aside, too. I know that the NBA game is a much more pretty game of basketball. Like, the style of play is just much more free. It's much more open. But that last night was high-quality college basketball. That was a very, very disciplined, diligent, efficient UCLA team that had veteran dudes that had been to a Final Four against a North Carolina team that is incredibly talented and have, as we've said in the last few minutes, have really grown into their own, just taking haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. Oh, and then Caleb Love decided to bring his howitzer to the show.
Yeah, and we'll talk about him plenty, but The first 5 minutes were as pretty basketball as you can get.
It really was.
By UCLA.
And no whistles.
You say 9?
First 5 minutes.
First 9.
With no whistles. And Uzang and Jules Bernard hitting shots and Tiger Campbell doing his thing and Jaquez. I mean, that was beautiful, beautiful basketball. And if you're a basketball fan, that stretch to open the game was fabulous. And then, like you mentioned, Caleb Love goes, 1 for 8 in the first half?
Yes.
And everybody's going
2 for 10.
Well, here we are.
Well, the guards
second
combined were 3 for 15, which, you say at halftime, guards are what win in March. And
guards and defense.
And they absolutely, the guards, the way they played in the first half, were not going to get it done in the second.
No. And you talked about defense.
20 fouls called, by the way, total.
I love it. And
That's it.
Well, and the best part, Tommy, it was
against Baylor.
It was consistent throughout the game.
Yep.
They didn't go where swallow your whistle the first half and then all of a sudden everything's a touch foul in the second. Like, they were consistent throughout the game, which creates for a better flow, which makes for a more aesthetically pleasing product.
Yeah, that's the thing, is the consistency. I did tweet that. It's like, I don't care if they call it tight. I don't care if they let them play. Just call it that way all game.
So the players know what to look for.
Yeah, and that's been, because the players adapt to whatever's been going on. But that's what's been maddening about the officiating. And clearly, if Carolina lost, we might have a different opinion or something. But the officiating inconsistency is a lot worse than the officiating missing calls, because you miss calls. That happens. But just the fact that it's all over the place, it's like one thing 1 minute, one thing the next, and that's what kills players and kills the flow, like you talk about.
And I think you mentioned players adapting, but I also do think, not to bail out referees, but as far as, like, if it's physical play in the beginning, which I'm not saying it wasn't physical play last night at the beginning, but both teams were just hitting shots early and just looking good. Like, there wasn't a lot of bully ball being played.
It was old school, what Dean Smith envisioned basketball.
There was a lot of spacing. There was a lot of pretty drives, pull-ups, things like
Movement
that.
off the ball.
So there didn't need to be fouls called, but there's also rarely fouls called early in games, and then when things do bow down and get physical, that's when fouls start getting called. But I mean, obviously last night did have physicality, intensity, but at the end of the day, it was just two teams performing an art on the court, and it didn't require calls at all.
I do want to go ahead.
No, I was going to say, shout out to the 300 people in the YouTube chat watching. And I'd be
It's a Saturday
interested
record, by the way.
I'd be interested to know how many people in the YouTube were on last night with us.
Yeah, I said earlier, if any of y'all
9
slept
hours
in the
ago.
chat last night, just identify yourselves. We won't judge. Maybe Tommy will send you an official Inside Carolina dog collar or something. I don't know.
Some coffee.
All right, guys, we got a big show lined up today. I want to make sure that we get a chance to talk about everything because, good Lord, we have an agenda. Greg Barnes will be in here in a second. There are all kinds of stats that we need to get into. Gregory, you did a great job of laying this out in the postgame last night, but I want to make sure we get into that. I also want to make sure we talk about some of the in-game adjustments that Hubert Davis made from a scheme standpoint last night, because that was, you talk about things that were beautiful, that was absolutely like hanging the Louvre art. So let's make sure we get a chance to talk about that. But we're going to be right back after a break. We got Greg Barnes, who's going to join us from Philly. We'll have Michael Brooker in the second segment. You know Brooke. He's been on a lot of post-game shows with us. UNC Letterman, recruited by Dean, played for Guthridge, and played for Doherty. So he's got experience in coaching situations and has experience, going to Final Fours. We'll talk to him. It's the top of the second hour. We're going to talk to Taylor Vippolis, who is still running the museum steps in Philadelphia for his Rocky montage. Vip will hit us up with a Geno's cheesesteak. We'll talk to him in the second hour. And then we also have the IC Takeover in the second hour, which is your chance to get involved with the show. Submit us a question either in the YouTube chat, on Twitter, at Inside Carolina. You can hashtag, I don't know if we have a hashtag. You can at Gregory or at me or at Tommy on Twitter, or you can drop a reply on the message boards, Inside Carolina Premium message boards. Gregory will have the Inside Carolina Takeover segment. Best question gets that $50 gift card from our peeps up at Johnny T-Shirt. We love them. They love us. We want you to love them as well. Take a quick break. Be right back with more on Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
This is Matt Merletti, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live. Tired of paying too much for insurance that just doesn't fit your needs? At All About Insurance, we shop your insurance with multiple carriers to get the best deal for you. Nationwide, AAA, Travelers, The Hartford, auto owners, and more. All About Insurance has got you covered whether you need auto, home, life, health, business, or renter's insurance. We can even cover your boat and motorcycle. Come see us in Chapel Hill at 1289 Fordham Boulevard. Call 919-933-4000 or visit allaboutinsurance.com. One call, we can shop them all. We know all about insurance, so you don't have to.
Hi, this is Wendy Thompson with Tony Hall & Associates. In this changing world of real estate, I'm happy to be working for a company with an excellent reputation that has served the Chapel Hill area for so long. We are known for our honesty and going above and beyond for our clients. If you are considering buying or selling, call the local experts and someone you can trust. Wendy Thompson at Tony Hall & Associates. At Tony Hall & Associates, we don't just list houses, we sell them.
Hi, I'm Jamie Sanchez, and I own Epilogue Books with my amazing partner Miranda. We are wanderers and wanderers who love sharing food, coffee, and stories with the community. Epilogue is a place where all are welcome to come find a book while enjoying local craft brews, a glass of wine, or churros and a cup of chocolate. Come cultivate new ideas, learn old ones, or escape into the welcoming atmosphere that books, chocolate, and coffee all provide. We hope you'll stop by and see us on Franklin Street, or visit online at epiloguebookcafe.com.
Metal braces aren't your only option anymore. I'm Dr. Kervin Mack with Mack Orthodontics. We offer innovative orthodontics for children and adults. Our diverse services include braces for kids, retainers, clear and invisible braces, surgical orthodontics, and more. We use the most current technique and technology in orthodontics, promising stunning smiles throughout the Burlington and Orange County areas. Start loving your smile.
Make an appointment today at mackortho.com. Accepts most insurance, partial payments, and offers flexible hours.
When Andy Dufresne escaped from Shawshank with all of the warden's money, just where do you think he went? Well, yes, he went to Mexico, but first he had to go see John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management. And if you want your money to last, you should go see John, too.
Shawshank Redemption is a fictional story, and Ellis Redding isn't real. However, Carolina Wealth Stewards doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management is in fact a real registered investment advisor with the state of North Carolina.
This is Jeff Rubish of High & Rubish Insurance Agency. Did you know that your auto policy contract does not cover liability arising from ownership or operation of a vehicle while used as public conveyance, such as Uber or Lyft? You may even risk being canceled by your current carrier should this be discovered. Call my office at 919-913-1144 to schedule a complete review of your insurance. At no charge, this is Jeff Rubish. Did you know?
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live with Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Inside Carolina Live. Freddie Mercury, best frontman in the history of the world for my dollar. Queen is an absolutely slept-on band, by the way. I'm glad to see they got a little resurgence with Bohemian Rhapsody, but huge Freddie Mercury fan. Love that dude's energy. Love just his 7 octaves or whatever it was he could sing because of the multiple rows of teeth in his mouth. I'm not going to ask this guy to sing, but I am going to ask him to bring that same energy. Joining us from Philadelphia, our guy, Greg Barnes.
Ain't nothing but a G-thing, baby.
Barnes, appreciate you joining us, man. I'm glad to hear that you are not in a some sort of Broad Street gutter, that you have been maintaining your grind, maintaining your attachment to your work. And hey, man, we just appreciate you joining us first thing on a Saturday morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm working up the energy to be able to pull for Duke tonight, so we can get that Final Four match.
The chaos you all desire, you and Gregory both, I think you need to be evaluated, because I cannot get behind your desire to just muck up everybody's lives and create drama where there need not be drama. But I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you giving us time. Look, man, this team, and we talked about it in the first segment, this team not only has continued to grow late into March. Am I seeing things, or is this team actually growing over the course of a game?
Yeah, Joey, this team is playing like the best team in the country. I mean, let's lay it on the table, especially in the NCAA tournament. The way that they absolutely obliterated Marquette, the way that they smacked Baylor until Brady Manick got ejected, and then they played a really good UCLA team last night. That is a skilled, savvy, veteran club who knew what they were doing. And Carolina looked down and out a couple times there in the second half, and then Caleb Love just did Caleb Love things. And they've been great defensively when they need to be. They've made shots. Yeah, it's phenomenal where this team has come over the last 6 weeks. 6 weeks ago, this team did not deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. And now we're talking about them being a leading candidate for the national championship.
I have not looked at Vegas's odds since last night. I know that things tweaked a little bit after Houston won. I know UNC was the third favorite going into the game last night to win the regional. So I'm sure those things will be tweaked a little bit. But we're talking with Greg Barnes, Inside Carolina beat writer extraordinaire. Greg, I have yet to see anybody praise Hubert Davis for his in-game adjustments the way I think he ought to be praised. And what I'm talking about is, some of the changes that they made after the first half. I mean, it's easy to talk about him benching Brady Manick when Manick was kind of losing his cool a little bit, which turned out to pay off by way of a big three. But just he found a way to absolutely exploit those high ball screens and side screens also, which Baycott was setting better, that they weren't doing that in the first half. He saw something, and man, did it pay off for the Tar Heels. How do you explain kind of Hubert just not getting the love for that? I know he would deflect it, but why is that not being talked about more? Because it seems like the in-game adjustments are so important.
Well, they're very slight in what he's doing. They're not like he's saying, okay, we're scrapping man for zone. Right? That's obvious that everybody can pick up on. But they're very nuanced moves, and that makes it hard for fans and media to pick up on it. But it also makes it difficult for UCLA to adjust because it's not something glaring. And I think that's part of it. He played in the NBA 12 years. He worked under Roy Williams for 9 years. So he has a very good sense of the game. I think a lot of people figured that would be the case. I never had questions about his coaching acumen in terms of X's and O's. It was more about how does he relate to the players, how does he motivate them. And I think that's where he's done an even better job, to be honest with you. Let me say this, though, about that second half dynamic. Caleb Love let's be honest. He has been very poor inside the arc over the last month and really all season long. I mean, he actually took a step back in ACC play this year from last year on 2-point field goal percentage. He's just really struggled to make shots at the rim. What we saw him do in the second half to get in the paint and make tough shots at the rim, we have not seen that all season long. And by doing that, UCLA had to give him space on the perimeter, and he had enough space to knock down some of those big threes. So Hubert certainly deserves the credit. But we haven't seen that Caleb Love all year long, and I think you could say that we haven't seen that Caleb Love in his Tar Heel career in terms of getting to the rim and making difficult shots.
Greg, to that point, I think that's what really got him going and got him in the game. He's 1 for 8 in the first half. He's struggling. The drive where he sort of Euro'd around Tiger Campbell and made that layup on the break, and then there was another one that he got to the rim. It was fascinating to see what it takes for guys to get going. And once he was able to see that ball go in the basket, I mean, we talk about the shoes and all that stuff. That's a cool story. But when he saw the ball go in the basket with those couple drives, that's the growth of an individual player, but that's the growth of this team as well. And that's the growth of Hubert Davis continuing to push what he's wanted to push since day one, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's that continued belief in your own skill set, but it's also the belief in your teammates. And Caleb showed that late. I thought RJ played better after a difficult first half. How many times this year and I can actually tell you the numbers. But in North Carolina's 9 losses,
Man, it's so good he answers his own questions.
North Carolina's 9 losses, the guards shot under 35% combined in those games. And it was a constant theme of, okay, if RJ and Caleb start poor, this is going to be very difficult for North Carolina to win. That was what we were talking about at halftime last night. These guys have 8 points and they're 3 of 15 shooting. This does not bode well, even though Carolina is dominating the offensive glass. And so for Caleb to be able to turn it on and not just fling up some threes and make them, but to play a complete offensive game, and for RJ really to buckle down. I thought he did a good job on Tiger Campbell in the second half defensively, but he really controlled the offense for North Carolina and made some big shots there late. That's the development. That's the growth that this team needed, and we're seeing it play out in front of us, and this has been fascinating to watch.
Talking about players stepping up, Leakey's getting as much press as in the last month as he's gotten in his career, positive press at Carolina. But speak to what you saw up close on his ability to guard Jaquez and guard Juzang. Jaquez is 1 for 11 in the second half, and that's a guy that started on fire in the first few minutes. Leakey has gotten so where he just breaks the will of a player that he's guarding. Can you see that from right there on press row? It's difficult to see on television. We see the result. But seeing it in person and up close, he gets in their heads so deep that they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you talk about Hubert Davis making adjustments. That was one of them because I was sitting right across from the UCLA bench. So I got a pretty good view of what North Carolina was doing defensively in the second half. And it would have been one thing if Hubert had just left Leakey on Juzang or even Jaquez. He didn't do that. He really alternated. And the reason he did that is because Leakey's so good that you can kind of adjust to him if you're dealing with him every single possession. But when you get a little bit of a reprieve here and there, you kind of get your hopes up. And you're starting to come off screens better, and you start to find a little bit of a rhythm. But then Leakey comes back to you. And they were running those guys off screens like I've never seen before. Juzang, there was multiple times where he was just going back and forth, fighting off 3 or 4 screens. It reminded me of J.J. Redick at Duke at times. And he just could not free himself of Leakey. So when you have a piece like that, and I think he's playing right now like the best defensive player in the country. For him to be doing what he's doing, it provides a backbone for that defense, and it really allows the other guys not to have to play perfect. They still have to play really good, but it's like having we always talk about having the big shot blocker inside, and Baycott's that a little bit. But Leakey to have that kind of impact on the wing has just been such a key part for what North Carolina has done. They didn't play great offensively in the first half. They held UCLA to 5 of 16 shooting there in the final, I think, like 8 minutes. And that's what needed to happen. And just phenomenal what he's been able to do all season long. But, yeah, for him to get the credit that he's gotten of late after a tough early career, that says a lot about the kid.
Is Leakey Black one of the greatest defenders in UNC history?
I think a lot of people a little bit older than you, Gregory, would throw Dudley Bradley and guys like that into the mix.
But is he up there?
I think he has to be. He's the best defender. He's playing as well right now as anybody that I've seen in a North Carolina uniform.
They win
as somebody covering the team.
They win next Monday night, unless we'll have that talk. I think yes.
He shut down the last 8 top scorers he's guarded, and that includes Banchero.
Is he going to guard Banchero again next weekend?
Would you stop with this mumbo jumbo, sir? Good Lord.
He'd be guarding Note.
Greg, I want to ask you another.
He guard Sunday.
Can we talk to the guest on the phone, please?
That was kind of a question for him.
Greg, one of the things I think has been really noticeable by this team, we talk about their maturation, we talk about their growth and how they're playing their best ball. You said they're playing like a team that's staring the national title in the face. Do you remember seeing a North Carolina team that played this much above you call it seed level in your article now, but do you remember a North Carolina team playing this much above their waterline in your time covering the team?
That's a good question. I'd have to say no. Although I think you can go back to, 2009, was probably the best team in the country entering the tournament, and they were number 1 seed, and they still played better than what we thought they were. Everybody in Final Four in Detroit just expected North Carolina to roll, and they did. But for this team to come as far as they have, I thought it was interesting that Hubert Davis kind of shot back at the reporter asking about the Wake Forest game last night. To be fair, Hubert's brought up the Wake Forest game quite a bit lately without anybody asking him about it. And the reason why is the team was really struggling at that point in the season, and he was trying to get a hold of what the team needed. And how could he coach them up? He knew they had skill. He knew they had talent. They have 3 McDonald's All-Americans in the starting lineup. But they didn't have heart, and they didn't have the dedication and the togetherness that they needed. And just when all that comes together, the team is playing just remarkably better. And it starts on the defensive end, but when you have guys that can go off, like a Brady Manick, like a R.J. Davis, like a Caleb Love, that we have seen in the NCAA tournament. In 3 games, we've seen that. It just makes it so tough for anybody to be able to guard them and add in the defensive prowess that they've shown of late. And, they're playing. Sherrell McMillan, give him a lot of credit. He said all year long that North Carolina had plenty of talent. I argued with him a little bit early in the year. He was certainly right because this team is playing to their recruiting rankings.
Greg, let's look ahead to 5:05 tomorrow. St. Pete in person. What are you seeing from them that we're not seeing on television? And also, who does Leaky Black guard? Since Gregory wanted to toss that question out there, I'm not sure. I don't know where he'd best be used. But as St. Pete, they're Cinderella. I think Duke Carolina in the Final Four would be a bigger matchup or a bigger deal than St. Pete in the Final Four. What do you think?
Yeah, watching St. Peter's yesterday, there was no reason for them to win that game, just like there was no reason for them to win the game against Kentucky. And yet they got it done. They are undersized, they're small, but they get after it defensively like no team I can remember seeing. They are all up in your face. They do a really good job with help defense. They swarm in the post. Zach Edey towered over those guys, and he just could not hold on to the ball because they were slapping at it so much. And they've also got really good guard play, and I think that's we talk about it a lot, Tommy. To win in the NCAA tournament, you've got to have really good guards, and Matthew Lee and Darrell Banks especially have just played fantastic. I would suspect that Leaky Black will play one of those guys defensively. I think Lee is so good at kind of running the show. But Banks is right there with him. And I think if you put Black on one of those guys, he's so much bigger that poses problems for what they want to do. They're not a great shooting team anyway. But Carolina's like a 9-point favorite. I suspect most people expect them to win by 10. Looking at it on tape, right, and looking at it on the stat sheet, there's no reason Carolina shouldn't win big. But as I said, Purdue should have beat them pretty handily, as should have Kentucky, and that didn't happen. So give Holloway and his crowd credit. They've played great thus far.
Okay, Joey's told me to wrap it up, so my 2-parter has become a 1-parter.
We have a show clock.
Any update on Armando's back? Did he talk about it last night? Because the announcers were making a stink out of it, but they were just talking about what they were looking with their eyes. So is that anything to be concerned about for tomorrow?
The official word is that Baycott does not have any back problems.
There you go.
And that kind of got blown out of proportion. So.
All right, well, good way to wrap this segment.
The chat wanted to know.
Yes.
Say hi to the chat, Greg. 500 of them.
Thank you, Gregory. Greg, we appreciate it, man. Get some rest. Clog your arteries with cheesesteak goodness today. And we will look forward to seeing more of your stuff on the site tomorrow as the Tar Heels try to advance to New Orleans. We appreciate you, Greg.
All right, thanks, guys.
That's Greg Barnes, Inside Carolina beat writer extraordinaire. Take a quick break. Be right back with Michael Brooker talking more Heels Elite Eight goodness. 97.9 The Hill, WCHL. This is Inside Carolina Live.
This is Ryan Taylor, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
For 20 years, there's been no better place online for the Tar Heel sports community than Inside Carolina. Exclusive recruiting information, in-depth team analysis, insightful podcasts. There's nowhere else that you'll find the level of daily content about the Tar Heels than InsideCarolina.com. Join the best community for Tar Heel sports around. The Tar Heels are your hometown team, and Inside Carolina is your hometown site for Tar Heel sports.
I'm going down, 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 down.
Start the presses. For more than 100 years, UNC students and the Orange County community have relied on the DTH. Big basketball wins, protests, campus tragedies. Through it all, the DTH has been there. Your tax-deductible donation will support student stipends, equipment and training, and general operations to keep the DTH fulfilling its mission to build the future of news. StartThePresses.org.
Hey Jack, if you were to describe us at Almas Jewelers, what would you say?
Great question, Eli. I'd say we bring the bling.
Well said, my friend. We have so many beautiful pieces, truly the largest engagement ring and wedding band selection in the area.
Bringing the bling means we specialize in diamonds, engagement rings, and wedding bands, and we are on site for custom consultations too.
Almas Jewelers in Eastgate Crossing is the place for bridal jewelry in Chapel Hill. Almas Jewelers. The name means diamonds. Let's engage. Online at almasjewelers.com.
Does this sound familiar?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Your commercial broker puts a sign in the ground at your property, sits back, and waits for the phone to ring. That's commercial real estate the old way. Don't settle. You deserve the bold way. Bold Commercial Real Estate's hands-on hustle leverages our 20 years of Orange and Chatham real estate experience to maximize your investment. BoldCRE.com.
It's time for the Carolina Player Spotlight, presented by Cappy Hagman Real Estate Group with Coldwell banker Howard Perry in Walston, supporting all of the student athletes from your hometown team on your hometown radio station.
My name is Eva Hodgson. I play shooting guard or point guard, and I'm from Ringe, New Hampshire. My favorite part about being in Chapel Hill is the community. I've gotten really close to a lot of families locally. I think my dream home would be a big house sitting on about 50 to 100 acres that can see a mountain, but is driving distance to the beach. That's kind of where I grew up, but also a little bit more idealistic too. My theme song would have to be Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide.
The Carolina Players Spotlight is presented by Cappy Hagman Real Estate Group with Coldwell banker Howard Perry in Walston. Find more Carolina Player Spotlights on the homepage of chapelboro.com. Go Heels.
Thank you, Cappy Hagman Real Estate Group.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live with Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
It seems the competition is riding.
Inside Carolina Live. I think I just blew Gregory's ears open. Either that or he was trying to do something else. But hey, shout out to everybody who's watching us on the old YouTubes there. The YouTubicals, the YouTube machine. Appreciate them being there. There's over 400 of you jokers in there. We appreciate you being here. So shout out to you guys. Right now, I want to bring in a guy who was on a North Carolina team that made a very similar run to a Final Four. Not sure if this was going to make a Final Four yet, but they were also seeded 8. So Michael Brooker joins us. Brooke, how you feeling, man?
Oh, feeling great, man. Still on a high from last night. It's tough to sleep, but it was. I'm excited to be on to talk about a win. That's for sure.
Absolutely, and you were on that '99-2000 squad that went from an 8 seed and got to the Final Four. What we're seeing right now is an incredible amount of buy-in for a first-year coach. What is your recollection of similarities between buy-in in the locker room you were in and what I think we're seeing right now with this Tar Heel roster?
I mean, I think I think it all starts with the head coach as far as knowing and understanding that they truly care about you and want you to see you succeed, and it's not about them. And I think that's the case with Coach Guthrie, just completely selfless. Coach Davis, obviously, completely selfless, and in his comments last night, just wants to see the guys be happy. He's had his time of success, and he just wants to see those guys be happy. And I think it starts with that, and then we were 18-13 and had just lost to Wake Forest in the first round in the ACC tournament, and Coach Guthrie just steady hand and just kind of told us to focus on the task at hand, just mini tournaments. He kind of broke it down into mini tournaments, mini pods, so to speak, and just focus on winning 2 games here, and let's just focus on winning these next 2, and that's just kind of how we approach it. And I think if you have a leader that you believe in and it puts you first, I think it's much easier to buy in, even at times when you may not be successful or maybe playing not as well as you would like.
Talking with Tar Heel basketball letterman Michael Brooker. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, Gregory found your media guide photo from 1999 and dropped it on YouTube. It is you are quite cherubic with your little bubbly youthful face there. But
yeah,
look, let's be honest. You don't look a whole lot different.
What's going on with the hair?
No, you don't look much
I'm not sure. I don't know that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I got a little less hair, a lot more gray. And I'm not sure what was going on with my hair at times during my career. I think there's one media guide photo where I think I had my head on backwards to the trip to the photo, and it does not look good in retrospect. But anyway,
Brooke, I think we've seen also a chemistry change with this team. That when I talk about chemistry change, I'm not just talking about guys buying in. I'm talking about kind of dudes just implicitly trusting each other, right? Like I think there's a certain level of buy-in for the staff and belief in the common goal. But now I think we're seeing guys who are trusting each other on the floor, knowing where the other one's supposed to be. And I think a great encapsulation of that is the play we talked about earlier in the show with Armando Bacot saving a bad rebound from going out of bounds on the end line, throwing it back one-handed in the air to one of his teammates, which resulted in a big UNC three-pointer. What can alter a team's adjustments like that to where they're trusting each other more and where the team seems to be just gelling better? Is it just playing time, or is it something mentally that they've all done?
I think that you can tell they enjoy playing with each other. I mean, they've been through some tough times early in the year. Obviously, we've all doubted them at times. Fans have doubted them, and they've kind of the roster was trimmed a little bit as far as the rotation. And I think guys are really comfortable in their roles, and they know that they're going to be out there for 35, 40 minutes sometimes, and they're going to have to really do what they do well, and I think each guy's role is pretty clearly defined. They know what's expected of them, and they go out there and exude confidence, and even when things may not be going well, they're still confident in their abilities to go out there and make plays and make big plays when the time comes and when the time is needed. And I think we saw that last night, down 5 or 6 on multiple occasions, and just stuck to the plan and stuck to what they did well and went out there and made plays and chipped away and got back in it every single time.
Brooke, Tommy here. It's funny trading texts with you and Joey when all this tournament stuff's going on. As Sherelle says, we are at DEF CON 2. Next Saturday could be DEF CON 1, possibly. But let me ask you something about the mindset of a shooter and a scorer. I mean, you scored 1 million points in your high school career, but I'm sure you were cold at some point, maybe at the first half of a game.
Yeah.
What's going through your head as a guy that can make shots when you watch a player like Caleb Love go from 0 to 60 in like 2.5 seconds, go from 1 for 8 to 30 points? Sort of speak to that about that performance from your experience.
Yeah, I think Joey hit it on the head last night with a tweet and said that Love's memory is like a goldfish, I believe he said. And I think his greatest ability is he fully believes, as most shooters do, that the next one's going in. You know, the next shot's going in. I've done this enough. I'm confident enough in my abilities. I'm a good enough player, and I'm a good enough shooter that regardless if I'm 1 for 8 or 0 for 10 or whatever, that the next one's going down. And I saw an article this morning that kind of, that's Love's greatest ability is no matter how poorly he's playing, no matter what he's done so far, he has that ability to put that behind him and focus on the next shot. And once that first one went down in the second half, it was on, and it was a sight to behold. And I think I talked to my son as well. You got to think that the next one's going in, and all it takes is one. No matter, you got to have a short memory as a shooter. And when you're as good as those guys are, when you're a good shooter, if you don't have that mindset, you're going to be in for a long career or a long game.
Looking at Carolina's guard play, obviously that leads the way. We talked about it a lot, but the defensive aspect of this team, we talked a little bit about, and we see it. We can talk about Leaky Black specifically, but the team defense has really been so much different than it was earlier in the season. What does it take for a team to finally get in that mindset? It usually takes a while, but it always happens when Carolina's made runs in the tournament.
Yeah, I think it's just connectivity and buying in and just understanding that you have to make people uncomfortable. I think the last time we talked, we were almost last in the country in forced turnovers and whatnot. And I don't know where we stand now with that, but just defensively buying in. And, early on, UCLA was making some really tough shots, some really tough twos, contested twos, and I think we just stuck to it. And once again, belief in what's being asked of you and belief in understanding that that's going to be an integral part of us continuing to advance. And, Jaquez ended up 5 for 18. Juzang ended up 5 for 13 after some, pretty hot starts. And I think just making people uncomfortable, making them feel you, making them, make sure that you got a hand in the face on all shots. And eventually, I think you wear people down with that type of effort. And we've seen improvement in those areas. And I think that's, fully ties into the kind of the run we've been on, is starting on the defensive end.
We're speaking with,
been fun to watch.
Sorry there. We're speaking with Michael Brooker on Inside Carolina Live here. Brooke, a lot of people were pointing out the minutes that Dontrez Styles and Puff Johnson provided for this team last night. Combined 16 minutes, 4 rebounds, 0 turnovers, a game of which Dontrez is coming off of playing his career high in minutes, but had a few turnovers and struggled there a little bit in the closing minutes against Baylor, but still did enough to pull out. How huge were they last night? What did you see as far as Hubert's ability to trust those guys for some valuable minutes?
I think those bench guys have been awesome. I really do. They've come in, and it can be difficult. Personal experience it's just hard to come in sometimes for 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, and just kind of not know when your number's going to be called. So big kudos to those guys and to Coach Davis for trusting those guys to put them in those spots. But it's tough mentally for those subs. But they came in. Obviously Styles was big on some production there in Baylor and Johnson as well. And Johnson had a nice and-one putback and just made some hustle plays and played some good defense, challenge shots. And so, it's good to see those young guys come in when their number's called. And like I said, it's not often. We're playing a lot of guys, 4 or 5 guys, 35, 40 minutes. But I think they've done a good job of focusing on the task at hand and what their role is. And those roles have been clearly defined, I believe. And when that's the case, guys can come in and play with confidence and make positive contributions even in really big moments like that.
And you mentioned how cool it was to kind of see Hubert get emotional about talking about what this means for his guys, and that's been his mantra all season. He's called it missionary work more times than I can count. On the player end, what do you think that means to the guys?
I think it gives them the ultimate confidence that their coach fully believes and wants them to succeed, and the moment is for them. And we, being a Carolina guy, obviously I look across town, to Durham, and I just, I think it's the opposite there, from this whole situation this year, how things transpired, and trying to shift the narrative there to now it's about the players. But I think, Hubert fully embraces that, fully believes that you're not going to find a guy that cares more about people than Hubert Davis. And is passionate about the game and people. So I just think that instills confidence and ultimate confidence in guys to go out there and just let it all hang out and see what happens,
One more question for you, Brooke. We're talking with Michael Brooker, UNC basketball letterman, about the Tar Heels' big win last night against UCLA to advance to the Elite Eight. Brooke, Tommy asked you about being a scorer and a shooter in your own mind. What's it like when you're on a team and you have a guy that goes absolutely nuclear like Caleb Love did last night? I mean, you play with Joe Forte, who had that microwavable ability. What does it feel like as a player when one of your teammates starts just going fully into his bag?
Yeah, it's incredible, man. I mean, it's fun to watch. We as players and we as bench guys and teammates know how much goes into it, knows how much those guys how much work they put in to have that ability to go on those types of runs. So it's just really fun to witness it. Those guys were like kids in a candy shop watching Love. You could see the joy on their face, the smiles on their face as he was getting off. And after the game, you don't always see that. I mean, I think that's genuine. I really do. The happiness, and they know what goes into it. They all individually know what goes into it, what the sacrifices are, and to see a guy go nuclear like that. I think these guys, Love, and they're just not fazed by the moment. That's one thing I wanted to say before. They're just not fazed by the moment. Going into Duke for K-Day. I mean, we may not play well at times as a team. There may be times where we struggle or things aren't as smooth as we would like, but I don't think this team has been fazed by the moment, and I don't think they will be. Like I said, we may not win, but I think Hubert and the staff has done a great job and instilling confidence that these guys are just going to go out there and play hard and let the chips fall where they may. No moment's going to be too big, win or lose, I don't think.
How many times did you see Bill Guthridge hit the gritty in the locker room?
Oh, that would be amazing. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, we wouldn't have had cell phones to capture it, but that would have been an amazing. Yeah, he was a character, but I've never seen that. But that would have been a sight to behold for sure.
Well, Brooke, we appreciate you joining us on a Saturday morning, man. Take care of the state of Georgia for us. We will talk to you sometime in the very near future.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Y'all take care.
All right, that's Michael Brooker from wherever it is that he's in Georgia. Where's he? He's just outside of Atlanta, but what's the suburb?
Man, don't put me on the
Marietta.
spot.
Dawsonville, Marietta.
Atlanta.
Oh, he's still
there. Man, even better. What is it?
Douglasville. It's about 30 minutes west of Atlanta.
All right,
so,
Douglasville.
And I haven't forgotten we're going to a Georgia football game, so start working on those tickets, Brooke.
Yeah, make that happen.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. All right, you guys take care. Go Heels.
All right, brother.
Appreciate you.
Brooke from Douglasville, Georgia. Appreciate him clearing it up for us and sticking around. Yeah, absolutely. If you have not seen the video of Coach Davis hitting the gritty in the post game, it's quite a thing to behold. Again, shout out to almost 500 of you chuckleheads that are also viewing this. I can't even talk. I'm so caught up and sleep deprived. Those of you who are viewing this on YouTube, we appreciate you being here. All of you are listening to us online at chapelboro.com, or if you're listening to us terrestrially, which, by the way, I've got about a minute before the next break. Can I go on an absolute just Agent Orange type tirade about why the NCAA will not allow affiliates or people to stream the broadcast? That's the voice of Aaron Keck, our on the Wheels of Steel today. Aaron Keck hosts the morning show, Mornings with Aaron Keck on WCHL 97.9 The Hill. But if you have not heard, you have probably figured out by now that you cannot stream the game anywhere other than on terrestrial radio. I appreciate the protection of terrestrial radio and the honoring of those contracts, but the NCAA is absolutely 10 years in the past by not allowing people to access the radio call of these games online. I can't say how absolutely absurd that is, that those contracts still will not allow for streaming.
I mean, when you take into account that it's 90+% of the NCAA's revenue, they're just trying to monopolize all of it, and I understand.
But they can find a way to put the radio call online just the same way they do anything else.
I don't know.
Just, find a way to make money on it, guys. You do everything else. You're not paying officials, so spend some money and...
They copy striked. I mean, we're allowed to. Lord, we posted the post-game vids. They copyright striked our vid, and it's just like...
Just dead.
It just says ineligible.
Wow.
Do you see that old man out there yelling at those clouds?
That's your reflection, Tommy.
He's outside yelling.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, we got to hit a break.
It's a very old Simpsons reference.
We have a hard out here. We'll be right back in the second hour of Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHL.
This is Zach Penalto, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
This is Greg Overbeck for the Chapel Hill Restaurant Group. Now is the time to get a great paying job if you know you'll be looking for work in the near future. It's no secret hospitality businesses are looking for employees, and we're no exception. But don't wait until state and federal assistance ends to look for good employment options. We're proud that we're known in the restaurant community for offering the highest wages and best benefits, so come to any of our restaurants and apply today. We have openings for both kitchen and front-of-the-house employees, and experience is not required. Visit chapelhillrestaurantgroup.com today.
When I think of a hero, I imagine our first responders and of their passion for protecting the innocent. Here at Farm Bureau Insurance, many of my fellow agents share the same passion about protecting their customers and communities. I wouldn't call myself a hero, but I am here to serve Chapel Hill. I'm Robbie Norris. Call me at 910-840-0833 for a quick auto, home, or life insurance quote, and to learn more about how Farm Bureau Insurance can save you time and money.
I'm Jeremy Salemson with CIMG Residential Mortgage. You've no doubt seen the commercials for the national mega corporations that offer faceless online mortgage services. Well, at CIMG, we offer a personal lending experience like no other. All of our approvals occur right here in Chapel Hill. We loan our own money, and we stay connected with our customers throughout the process. In short, we humanize the lending experience. Learn more at CIMGINC.com, lending on a first-name basis.
Complete Kids is excited to welcome families to their new Southern Village location. Complete Kids offers multiple therapy services for children, including physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and ABA therapy. Their Chapel Hill location is the newest in the Complete Kids family, but they've been helping children across North Carolina grow and thrive for years. They accept most major insurance plans and can't wait to meet you. To meet the providers and request an appointment, visit online at CompleteKids.com.
Hi, I'm Jamie Sanchez, and I own Epilogue Books with my amazing partner Miranda. We are wanderers and wanderers who love sharing food, coffee, and stories with the community. Epilogue is a place where all are welcome to come find a book while enjoying local craft brews, a glass of wine, or churros and a cup of chocolate. Come cultivate new ideas, learn old ones, or escape into the welcoming atmosphere that books, chocolate, and coffee all provide. We hope you'll stop by and see us on Franklin Street, or visit online at epiloguebookcafe.com.
Chapel Hill loves to support local business and is filled with amazing shopping and dining centers. This month we highlight University Place. Known as University Mall since the 1970s, University Place is about to embark on a massive redevelopment, adding many green spaces and over 24 new retail, restaurant, and office spaces. And as this renovation happens, University Place is still open for business with clothing and jewelry stores, amazing restaurants with indoor-outdoor dining, and many activity-based attractions. Follow along at universityplacenc.com.
Hi, it's Jones Angel, voice of the Tar Heels, and you're listening to your flagship station for Tar Heel sports, 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, Chapel Hill.
Coming to you straight from the heart of Chapel Hill in the 97.9 The Hill WCHL studios from the independent voice of UNC sports, covering everything from Amos to Zwicker. This is Inside Carolina Live. And now the hosts of Inside Carolina Live, Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell.
I will give people credit after I intro us back on the second hour Inside Carolina Live. Host Tommy Ashley, Joey doing something over there that resembles dancing.
J5, bro.
On the board. I
feel it.
Do you know him? You know them too. You met him. The one time I met Michael Jackson.
You sound real haterific right now.
I'm being haterific because I need my third cup of coffee. Sean in the chat, the mystery white bag is always Sunrise biscuits, but haven't had them the last couple weeks.
He pointed out the white bag.
How do you notice it? Wow, shout out to Sean.
Sean's awesome.
Sean really loves this content if he notices that the white bag is missing. That's probably why Tommy's dragging a little bit today, too. I'll own that. That's my bad, y'all.
Second hour, we bring in Taylor Vip. I just want to know, Taylor, are you wearing your gray hoodie and standing in front of the statue? That's all I need to know.
I'm not wearing a gray hoodie, but I am in the city center of Philadelphia getting some breakfast this morning. But, you know, when Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell ask you to jump, you don't ask how high, you just jump.
Is Jim Hawkins with you?
No, it's I met my cousin.
I was going to say, you have to throw Jim on the phone.
Nice. Well, I was going to say, Hawkins, if it's not inside and it doesn't have waiters and waitresses serving white towels and white gloves, he's not there. Love you, Hawk, if you're listening.
We got some crew out here this week. Me, Jim, Ross, and Greg Barnes. We're missing Gregory this week, though.
I saw a couple of the pictures. We need to buy a certain beat writer some shorts that fit.
It's hard to find. He likes those 5 inches, but he's 6'5", so that's 6 feet of him showing.
That math isn't adding up. Yeah.
Vip, let's start backwards. We'll talk about the UCLA game here in a second, but you and I sort of debated on the beat on Thursday night. You said you wanted no part of St. Peter's. I said, I want Carolina to play St. Peter's. Well, here we are. Your initial thoughts on what this could look like tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I think yesterday was the first chance I've got to see St. Peter's live and in person, and their offense, they really make you work, and it's a tangible chip that they're playing with on their shoulder. They're a bunch of New York, New Jersey guys. They're coming from a small conference, and every game they're a double-digit underdog. It's an environment where I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to be like, because when UNC was playing UCLA, I would say it was 70% UNC fans. But St. Peter's, even though their undergrad is 3,500 people, you have to imagine everybody who's ever went to St. Peter's or rooted for St. Peter's is going to want to be in the Wells Fargo Center on Sunday.
Let's talk about Caleb Love and UCLA. I mean, you were there in person, right up close, and it's different when you see performances in person up close. What's going through your mind watching Caleb just go absolutely off in the second half of this game? I mean, the kid's been through a lot. He certainly can play. He certainly can play really bad at times, but he just went nuts in the second half.
Yeah, the best thing about sitting front row and watching somebody like Caleb Love is I don't think I've ever seen a player talk more trash out there on the court, and it's fun to see him when he gets going. Yesterday was the full Caleb Love experience where he struggles in the first half. He makes a change in the locker room at halftime because Hoops tells him to change his shoes. He switches to a different pair of Jordan 11s, and then it was just him chucking and him making every shot. And when he gets in one of those modes, you could feel it on the court where it's like there's nothing that's stopping him, and he's going back and forth with his defender. And when he's in that kind of mode, there isn't much you could say as a defender. And so it just turns into a lot of Caleb Love talking.
I love the discussion around the shoes. We're talking with Taylor Viplis, Inside Carolina Live. Vip, I love the shoe talk. I love that Hoots is getting the credit for it. I love that Hubert Davis had no idea that he'd even change shoes and that Hoots masterminded that. But I told Hoots we would give him some love on the radio for his wizardry today. Can you recall ever seeing a guy just absolutely get loose like that? I mean, you talked about the way he's when he gets in his bag, he's on his own. But can you talk about a guy going that nuts in the second half, and even though he took half the team's shots, it seemed like it really energized the team, not just giving them extra points. Like it seemed like everybody else was like, all right, well, if he's going to go, we're going with.
Yeah, it was like when you're playing those NBA street games and you have the takeover and everything you're putting up, the basket looks like it's the size of the ocean right now, and you're just chucking it in there. I think Armando Bacot said it best after the game in the postgame, where it was like, when Caleb Love is in one of these kind of modes, you give him the ball and you get out of his way and let him do the rest. And that's what it felt like for this Carolina team, where they struggled in the first half at times. They needed to find some kind of offense, and the offense in the second half just happened to be Caleb Love going off. And I think the biggest thing that kind of helped him go off, besides the shoes, I don't think it was the shoes per se, but he really got his game going from the inside out. He got a couple of good looks when UCLA was playing that drop coverage and their pick and rolls, and he was just attacking the big that was dropping low. And then I think that really got him going when he saw a couple of easy layups go in, and then he kind of just took over the game from there.
The one where he had the Euro step, and it was really, really nice because that was in transition. But he had another one where he started out, crossed his guy from the free throw line, extended to the right, crossed his guy, went left, and got the lay-in with the right hand, with his right hand. And I think that just shows his versatility and his ability to get his own bucket. Do you think that will translate against a St. Peter's team that is just really, for lack of a better term, just really, really gritty and determined? Do you think he'll be able to get that kind of action to the basket on Sunday?
Yeah, I think so. I think Caleb Love he's a supremely athletic option, and I think what Carolina has shown is that they're going to find ways to attack a team's weaknesses. So whatever the coaches saw from that St. Peter's UCLA, the St. Peter's Purdue game, Coach May and Coach Frederick were sitting courtside taking notes, so they already have a pretty decent idea of what they're going to be looking for, and then I think it's going to be up to the guys out there to execute. But I think this is a game that Caleb Love can kind of replicate. But I think if you're a Carolina fan, the positive for this team is that it doesn't really have to be Caleb Love. I was sitting next to the UCLA radio broadcast, and they brought over an assistant coach after the game, and before they went on air, he was just talking about like how tough this North Carolina team is. He was like, they have 4 guys on any given night that can go off at any given moment between R.J. Davis, Brady Manick, Armando Bacot, and Caleb Love. So it's not even like Caleb Love has to go into the next game thinking, he has to be the man, even though Caleb Love is probably the most confident athlete I've ever seen in person. So he's going to be going into the game with that mindset. But I think he also knows that, it could be Brady Manick's night, it could be Armando Bacot's night, it could be R.J. Davis' night, and it's kind of just what the defense is giving them.
It also will be highly likely that Hubert Davis will try to contact his man King Rice, whose Monmouth squad plays against St. Peter's twice a year, and I think caught him 3 times this year. We're talking with Taylor Vippolis here on Inside Carolina Live.
Taylor, you brought it up, so I'm going to ask you a question that someone asked us for IC Nation Takeover. Is the fact that 4 of UNC's starters are capable of going off for 25-plus points, with 2 of them obviously going for 30, Brady going for 28, and Armando's gone for 29 this season, is it a more of a testament of talent or selflessness?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would lean more selflessness, because at the beginning of the year, we saw a team where it felt like, R.J. Davis would come down and get his shot off. Then the next possession, if Caleb Love didn't touch the ball the last possession, the second he touches the ball, that ball's going up. When the ball goes into the post to somebody like Dawson Garcia, the ball was going up. And there really wasn't too much movement, and there wasn't too much guys enjoying each other's success. But now when you're watching this team, it's like these guys are playing like they enjoy being out there. It's like the North Carolina basketball that I think everybody kind of grew up watching, where you have the point to the passer and you have guys who are out there enjoying their minutes together. But I think they're also extremely talented too, or else they wouldn't get this far in the tournament. And I think the one point that I think I want to make when you're talking about the starting 5 is that, they have 4, elite scoring options, but the 5th guy is one of the best defensive players in the country, and he did a great job fighting through UCLA's off-ball movement yesterday. Leaky Black guarding Johnny Juzang, who Johnny Juzang is one of my favorite players to get, because he could just score some really tough buckets, but he holds Juzang to 2 of 8 in the second half, where I think Carolina was content with the defense they played in the first half. UCLA was just hitting some better shots, but then Leaky Black kind of just took over the defensive game and kind of disrupted UCLA and what they were trying to do in that offense.
Yeah, and you mentioned Leaky there, and it's just the it's a combination of Leakey's ability, but also Hubert's coaching ability to find a way to have Leakey limit both Juzang and Jaquez in the second half. Like, because he guarded both of them. Like, he didn't just put him on Jaquez and then be like, all right, Brady, you're our sacrifice to Juzang now. Like, he found a way to play both of them. How can that continue on Sunday, in your opinion, based on how you watch St. Peter's guard play?
Yeah, St. Peter's is a tough team to, I think, scout, because it doesn't really seem like they have like one option or like one clear guy. 25, I thought 25 had a pretty off night for his standards. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I've seen analytics saying that he's been the most efficient guard, guard in the country. Yeah.
He's averaging 1.34 points per possession.
That is absurd.
Yeah.
And he played,
that is crazy. Those are crazy numbers.
And he was bad against Purdue. He did hit 7 of 8 free throws, but yes, he is played out of his mind lately.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how Carolina kind of attacks him, or how Carolina goes after him when they're on offense, because Carolina obviously has a size advantage. Carolina obviously has an athleticism advantage, but St. Peter's is the Cinderella of this tournament, and it's going to be a weird change for this UNC team, where it's felt like everybody's kind of been rooting for them as the underdogs, but now they're I think an 8-point favorite on Sunday.
What was your vantage point from the game last night? Where were you?
Front row.
Like across UNC's bench?
Across from UCLA's bench, closer to UCLA's bench.
Okay, I was just curious if you saw Caleb look over to the bench after he hit that three to tie it, and look at the bench and say, "I got you," multiple times, and if so, or if you even knew about that.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw that one in particular, but after every time Caleb Love was making a three, I was leaning in trying to hear every bit of what he was saying. There was one where his defender, I can't remember his primary defender, but his defender didn't put his hand up, and Caleb just shot right over the top of him, and with some words that aren't appropriate for radio, he was basically just screaming at him like, what are you doing, and just kind of getting in his face like that. And then the next possession, he came down and hit another three, just heat checking, and he was just looking right at that defender again and just screaming at him, I'm him. So Caleb Love, it's like, I think that was my favorite part of last night, and covering the game last night, was just being that close to seeing somebody who's in this, this Kemba-like takeover in the NCAA tournament on one of the biggest stages, and seeing him kind of get in his bag and in that mode where everything is going for him.
And I think it was Jules Bernard that had to cover against Caleb, and he flat out cooked him in the second half. So I got a question. New York guards versus Carolina's guards, got some New York in them. What break it down for us, 5 o'clock on Sunday. How does this game shake out, Taylor?
Asking for a prediction?
You don't have to predict the score. You just think about how it'll break down. Whatever you want to.
Without any Knicks talk.
I think, it's going to be tough to not get Knicks talk. I think this is a game where I think Carolina has gotten some favorable matchups, not from, the seed line, obviously, but teams that they just match up well against. And if you're polling the fan base, who would you rather play, St. Peter's or Purdue? I think everybody, almost everybody is going to pick to play St. Peter's, and for obvious reasons. But I think North Carolina, you talk about St. Peter's playing with a chip. I think this North Carolina team has that same chip about them. And after the game, I feel like the biggest message from the team, and just hearing them on the court, it was like, this was a huge win. It's been a great season, but this team isn't ready to go home yet, and they're looking to check off a few things off their to-do list still.
and this is something I was going to bring up later, but I'll talk to you about it. Purdue's big man. You know what he did yesterday against St. Peter's? Edie.
What's that?
He got only 5 shots, but he had 5 turnovers. And they had to put him on the bench because he couldn't handle St. Peter's. I think
he only shot the ball 5 times.
5 for 7.
And he also couldn't defend. That was another problem he had.
Yeah, but this is, and I want you to discuss it in terms of Baycott. Baycott struggled hanging on to the ball at times last night and has at times this season. St. Peter's is going to slap and slap and slap and go after the ball. They did it to Edie. They tried to do it to Williams for Purdue. He's a little bit better at containing the ball. But what type play does Baycott need to bring tomorrow? I mean, I think he's got to be as tough and as physical as he's been all season.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big game for Baycott. I think the one thing that's easy to do with this North Carolina team, it's like, Love and Davis go for 30 points in back-to-back games, and you almost forget about what Armando Baycott is doing when the only comparable numbers are somebody like Tim Duncan in ACC play with how he churns out double-doubles. But I think it's going to be a good test for him, because he does have such a size advantage over St. Peter's, to see how he can do. And I think one area that, when you talk about how this North Carolina team kind of turned around their season, one area that they have gotten better is Baycott has gotten much better as a passer out of the post, and he's finding guys when teams are throwing double teams at him and throwing these different looks. And then I think the other thing that's going to be interesting to see from St. Peter's is they seem like a team that wants to press North Carolina. We saw North Carolina struggle against the press against Baylor, and UCLA, the tempo UCLA wants to play at, they're just never going to try to really press you, besides making it maybe difficult on the inbound and then dropping off. But St. Peter's, their profile as a team is they're going to want to get up in your face and try to make you go the full length of the court to score on them. But Caleb Love wasn't in when that press was going bad, so that's another ball handler, which should help out Carolina and kind of get them settled in if St. Peter's does try to press them and speed North Carolina up.
Vip, we appreciate you, man. Enjoy the rest of your day in Philly. Don't end up getting in some shenanigans while playing basketball at a blacktop somewhere and end up getting sent out to live with your auntie and uncle in Bel Air. So keep it safe. We appreciate you joining us on a Saturday morning. We'll look forward to seeing more of your reports on the site in the next 24 hours.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, see you, Vip. That's Taylor Viplis for Inside Carolina. Take a quick break. Coming right back with the IC Nation Takeover. You know the drill. Submit your great questions. Gregory's going to run this segment, and the best question gets $50 from our friends at Johnny T-Shirt. We'll be right back on Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
Yo, this is Denora Cersei, Carolina alum, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live. Let's go, baby.
Hi, my name is Marlo Shank, and my dad, Jeff, is a partner in the First Watch Daytime Cafe. As a family full of Tar Heels, having a First Watch in Chapel Hill makes it even more fun to go to games and meets to root for Carolina. First Watch has amazing staff that treat their customers superbly. I'm a picky eater, but I always love going to First Watch. I recommend the pancakes and sweet tea. Chapel Hill has a special place in my heart, and I hope to be in the UNC graduating class of 2031. Go Heels!
Every weeknight at 6 p.m., 97.9 The Hill gets live and local.
I'm no longer accepting the things I can't change, changing the things I can't accept.
It's the very best of the Chapel Hill music scene, from yesterday's classics to the great songs of today.
Wanna be a stranger again.
It's live and local, the best in local music, every weekday at 6 on 97.9 The Hill. And stream us live from anywhere on chapelboro.com.
I'm Jeremy Salemson with CIMG Residential Mortgage. Did you know that you can purchase a home with as little as 3% down? That Fannie Mae uses on-time rent payments as a factor when granting a mortgage? We help first-time homebuyers daily at CIMG and are proud to grow with them into future refinancing and purchases. Put our expertise and local knowledge to work for you. Get started at CIMGINC.com. CIMG, lending on a first-name basis.
I'm Scott Cummings from Dynamic Electric, where we're ready to take care of all your electrical needs for home or business. We want working with Dynamic Electric to be easy. We strive to provide hassle-free service, quality electrical repairs, and prompt responses. Our experienced electricians are licensed, bonded, and insured. The best part, we're locally owned and operated, right down the road in Hillsboro, and here to help you. Give us a call to schedule a service visit or discuss your next project.
Dynamic Electric, local, reliable experience. Online at dynamic-electric.com.
It's time for the Carolina Players Spotlight, presented by Millhouse Properties, supporting all of the student athletes from your hometown team on your hometown radio station.
My name is Armando Baycott. My position is forward, and I'm from Richmond, Virginia. My favorite part about being in the town of Chapel Hill is just interacting with all the families and all the fans of the program. My dream home would be on the coast of Miami in a big, nice house. My favorite song currently is Rax Got Me by Yeet.
Yeah, Rays don't step my back. Rays don't step my back. Yeah, everybody step my back. Rays don't step my back.
The Carolina Players Spotlight is presented by Millhouse Properties, specializing in rental property and HOA management. Nobody knows the Hill like the Mill. Find more Carolina Players Spotlights on the homepage of chapelboro.com. Go Heels.
Thank you, Millhouse Properties.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live with Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
This will get Tommy Ashley awake and stirring.
About time we bring some good music to the show.
Listen to this guy. As much as you call me a name dropper, you hate anything that is not out of your catalog.
That is ridiculous. I love all things. I am a universal lover.
Lover, not a fighter.
Absolutely. We'll fight too now. We
Listen at him.
Country.
Listen at him. Don't steal the man's tractor.
Hubert Davis.
Yeah, he has. He just three kinds of people.
I've been hollering for that kind of stuff for years for Carolina basketball.
It makes all the difference in the world, that's for sure. All right, we're going to turn the show over to Gregory now. Do you think we can handle this, Tommy? We all right? Are you okay? Are you caffeinated enough to save us when it goes off the rails?
I'm good. I'm reading all the questions, so I'm knowing what's coming early.
My man's got a lot to choose from.
Preparation, everybody.
I don't prepare. You
can't even say preparation.
Yeah, really. See, it's not. That is not a moment. Preparation is not a thing for me.
Hey, walks in. What are we talking about today?
Yeah,
right.
Literally, that's the thing. So what are we talking about today? All right, Gregory, have at it, man.
I'm going to stick with the question I asked Vic because I want y'all's opinion on this.
Guys.
From somebody on Twitter. Zwitterion.
You just made that up.
Is the fact that 4 of UNC starters are capable of going off for 25-plus points at any time a function of talent or selflessness? Tommy, you start.
I think it's talent, and it's a function of playing 40 minutes a game. You know, I think selflessness is good, but I think it's talent. You don't go off for 25 to 30 if you can't play. And they have 4 guys, legitimately 4 guys that can do it at any moment and have done it. And the selflessness thing is nice. When you hear Baycott talk about, well, we knew he was hot, so we just get out of the way and let him do his thing. The interesting part about that is Caleb Love went nuts. Who saved the game?
Exactly.
Literally.
And that's why this team is on a special run, is because even when somebody does go off, to the selflessness point, somebody there is to fill in the gap, so to speak. Because without that, it doesn't matter what Caleb scores.
You've got to have a certain amount of veteran experience to understand when to get out of the way, too. I think that's Armando's seniority speaking a little bit and recognizing that, hey, when you got an alpha that's just burning the house down, let him cook. To your question, Gregory, I think it's talent. I don't think you can score 25 points without being talented. You can share the ball all you want, but if you're not capable of lighting it up, then the buckets ain't going to come.
All right.
And hold on. to the selflessness
Excuse you,
point.
this is my segment.
No, I continue.
Wow.
Look, don't make me pull rank, and I don't pull rank much. I'm talking.
All those birds that were flying around Tommy happily 5 minutes ago, they're gone now.
It's buzzards. To the selflessness point, how many times did we see maybe early in the season, maybe the last couple years, guys that are heating up and starting to play well, but then another guy takes a bad shot? Mm-hmm. I mean, we saw that a lot. We saw it early in the season.
I mean, we saw some bad shots last night, but that's just Caleb Love.
But it was, Caleb Love was the hot one, but I'm talking about, say, Caleb goes off.
Oh, I understand.
And then somebody, RJ, or somebody says, I'm getting mine too. And that hasn't happened in the last couple months of this season, the last 6 weeks of this season, as guys realize, and not only realize it, but actually act on it to keep somebody going. I just want to know, is there a rule that Caleb and RJ can't go off on the same day?
They only did it against Duke. All right, this is from our guy Evan on Twitter. He's very common in these shows and whatnot. He asks, how does the offense change when Armando has to sit? So basically, when Brady's at the 5, how does the offense change? Joey, do you have an answer for this? You want me to take
It's
it?
almost a 5 out. Brady will start in the post, but he doesn't stay there.
It's a hybrid 5 out,
yeah,
correct?
And if you watch it long enough, like I said, they'll start running that way, but they will. He'll absolutely release to a corner, and I think that actually works in UNC's favor, because most of the time, if Brady's in at the 5, that means their 5 is going to be guarding him, and it's hard for a traditional 5 to guard a player as versatile as Brady Manick is.
And what's great about that is usually it's when the other team also goes small. Hubert's done a really good job of taking out Baycott when the other team's 5 comes out, and it's just kind of letting UNC small ball go against the other team's small ball, and UNC's small ball is very often better than the other team's small ball because of Leaky Black and because of Dawson Garcia.
Did you notice last night? Last night that Hubert Davis dictated that?
Yes.
In the second half, he went small, and then UCLA acquiesced, and they followed suit.
I think they took out Riley.
They took out Riley, yeah, and didn't put Riley back in. They brought in the Clark kid.
Yeah, and then their lineup was Campbell, Juzang, Hawkes, Bernard, and Clark,
yes,
which got rolled by Carolina.
Yes, they got torched pretty quickly.
All right. Let's go here. Oh, Brian Evans has been firing questions in the YouTube chat, so I'm going to hit him up here. Kind of, 3 of his questions were around the same lines. He says this is Brian's words. Do we attack St. Peter's press more through the pass with UNC's height superiority? And if UNC beats the press, do they attack the rim quickly or set up and run the offense? Basically, how does UNC attack St. Peter's press tomorrow?
You don't do it with the dribble.
As we learned against Baylor.
You do it with off-the-ball movement, screens, and good passes, but you got to be strong with the basketball, and folks will understand that. If you don't understand what I mean by that after the Baylor game, then you just don't get it as far as basketball related. One thing I've noticed with this Carolina team is that back in the day, and we talked a lot about the Kentucky game in '95 and other games, when teams would press Carolina, it would end up in a dunk on the other end. And this team doesn't do it as much. I'd like to see them try to do it against St. Pete, but you got to be smart about it. If they speed you up too much and you're not making the shots or getting to the line, then you're going to get in trouble with the quickness. So, the more dribbling Carolina does against the press, the less likely I think it's successful.
When you're coaching presses, when you're coaching against the press too, the two things you don't do, or you don't dribble, you don't go to a corner. And UNC did both of those things ad nauseum against Baylor, partially because they were down to one ball handler, but also because they got a little bit of a lemon booty factor going on.
And they didn't do it the couple times UCLA pressed last night.
Oh, last night they were immediately kicked in the
Hail Mary pass to Leaky against the press. It was the 2 easiest points of the night.
Sneaky, pretty transition on that play. Yeah. So what I think you're going to see tomorrow is that's a way that North Carolina can exploit their height and athleticism to neutralize what St. Peter's wants to do in gumming things up, right? St. Peter's wants to they want to slow the game down on defense and make you have to really, really work through them, and they're gonna bump you. They're not as, I don't think they're as physical as some of the teams UNC has played recently, but they're going to absolutely try to make you earn what you get. If North Carolina can get a couple of leak outs or a couple of run outs or whatever you want to call them in transition, that quickly will nullify an advantage that St. Peter's might have when they get set on defense.
All right, I'm going to combine some questions here in the chat because they're all very similar. Sean Crowley asked, do you guys think the Heels may play inside out early to draw defense into Baycott and then knock down some shots to land haymakers early? Garrett Clemens asks, how important is the screen at the top of the key from Baycott? And then someone okay, yeah, I'll start with those two. So basically, offensive game plan here. And it kind of goes with what Brian was asking about, does UNC run? Do they set up sets? If UNC has the choice Sunday, it means they are running their offense. They're dictating play, whether it's fast, whether it's slow. And it also means Brady Manick is a crucial piece on Sunday because it means he's moving and he's getting what he wants to off the ball, which he didn't necessarily do last night. He kind of was searching for threes a little bit, and because early on when he was cutting, UCLA did a really good job of preventing it.
Well, that's where Hawkwez was kind of making things difficult for him.
Right. So if UNC, one, I do think they start inside out. And we haven't seen that as much recently just because of Brady, whether it's Brady, RJ, or Caleb's hot from three. But I do think it starts out early inside out to kind of get Baycott going, to then make the shooters almost an afterthought because St. Peter's is so much smaller and they have to focus on Baycott. Two, I think the ball screen will be more important tomorrow than it was yesterday. And the ball screen yesterday was one of the main reasons UNC won.
You think it'll be more important? I'm not sold on that. I think Carolina can attack St. Peter's more traditionally with post entries.
Yeah.
And spread the floor and put Baycott on the post.
Well, that's why I think it's going to be more important because they will do that. But then we saw St. Peter's against Purdue shut that down.
Well, because Purdue would jumble it up. I think Carolina can get completely out, 4 out completely, and then put Baycott down on the post and let Baycott make some moves. You can't let those guys get around the ball, and Baycott will do it. He'll put the ball down low. One thing about Eric Montross back in the day.
He's tall.
He's tall, but the ball never came below his shoulders. And so he used that advantage. I think Baycott likes to put the ball on the floor like you can get yourself in trouble. I think Carolina's going to run PNR all night. They do it 100 times a game, but I think that we'll see more traditional sets from Baycott maybe early to see if he can get going. The bottom line is Carolina's got to protect the basketball, and they've got to hit shots, and they don't need to rush unless the rush is available.
Something they did really well last weekend that they didn't do as well against UCLA. They shared the ball. They had 51 assists on 62 baskets in the first weekend. Last night, I think they had 11 assists, which was not as good. And part of that's because you got a guy like Caleb Love who's taking over. If North Carolina reverses the ball and keeps the ball moving around the perimeter as well as they have at times, think about that first basket they got against Baylor. If they can show that against St. Peter's, I think they're going to make it a real tough effort on the Peacocks. I think that's where, regardless of how good St. Peter's may play as a team, I don't think their athleticism will match up if North Carolina is sharing the ball around the perimeter as well as they have at times in this run.
Defensively, sticking game plan questions here. Who asked it? Let me find. Sorry.
Live radio here, buddy.
Gil Elhart asked, St. Peter's guards like to attack the paint. How does UNC defend against their aggressive penetration? Also, okay, that's the second question. Were there no offensive fouls last night? And one, I do not believe there were any offensive fouls last night, but that was just kind of about, we talked about this earlier, the game was played clean. But to the first question about how does UNC defend against St. Peter's aggressive penetration, because they will shoot, but they don't rely heavily on the three. So what does UNC's defensive game plan need to be tomorrow? Joey, I'll come to you first.
That's Shaheen Holloway, though. I mean, if you think about the way he played when he was a player, it's very much, attack the basket. It's that Kemba Walker style of, trying to get downhill and wanting to go through contact as much as possible. I think you'll probably see UNC not pick up as close to half court as they have at times on their man pressure. You saw them really extend their pressure against Baylor a little bit last week when they were making their run early in the game. I don't think you'll see as much of that against St. Peter's. I think they'll probably stay closer to the three-point line and where, give themselves that easy step back to stop the dribble drive if they need to. I hope that if they're playing help, that everybody's playing help, so it's not one of the situations where the rotation
get left.
Yeah, where the rotation's bad and you end up leaving somebody open, because anybody that's still alive this late in the tournament can shoot. Whether St. Peter's is elite or not, it doesn't matter. You don't want to half help down and have your rotations be so bad that you're leaving shooters open for three. And Carolina fans and Inside Carolina subscribers will know that that's been UNC's bugaboo year after year is bad help rotation.
You want to know something that was impressive from St. Peter's last night?
Always.
Ndefo fouled out. Ndefo had 4 points. And St. Pete only shot 28% from three.
Did Ndefo and Drawmay foul out? I thought Drawmay fouled out.
I just see Ndefo with 5.
Okay, then 2 of them fouled out.
And I think that matchup might be an issue for Carolina.
Ndefo?
Yeah. And
he's their best player.
He's a bit of a tweener, too. You're right, Tommy.
It's going to have to be manic. We talked about what Leakey does. I think Leakey's got to go on a guard, but I think Ndefo did nothing against Purdue, and they still won. And that gives me a little bit of pause that they can win a big basketball game without playing their best. They didn't do anything special against Purdue. They just muscled up and beat Purdue and did not allow Purdue to do anything they like to do. As far as how Carolina defends them, just without fouling. Make them make shots over length, you know. And where Carolina gets in trouble or could get in trouble this game is if you foul drivers or foul shooters. Just force them to make shots. If they make shots over Baycott and over Leakey all night and over Manic all night, then they just do. But don't help them. And by playing clean defense, and then Carolina can have some success. And then you force them into something that they're not used to doing, and that's going out with their left hand like they like to do. We got fans watching.
Those are Aaron Keck fans.
Is Greg Barnes?
No, those are you fans,
that was
guys.
A Greg Barnes fan. Is Greg Barnes the best in the country? The answer is yes.
Yes. Oh, there's without question. Greg Barnes is the best at what he does in the country. It's not even close, really.
No, it's really not. All right, Stuart Dula on YouTube. What play/game do you think changed the trajectory of this team? Now, I think there's an easy answer here, but I think there's other possible answers. Tommy, I'll let you keep going.
I was hoping you wouldn't come to me first.
All right, sorry, Joey, go.
I think the easy answer is after the Pittsburgh loss.
Yes.
I think the correct answer is when things started getting gross in the second half against Louisville.
I love that answer.
Sherelle mentioned that on the last Coast to Coast podcast that we drop every Sunday night on InsideCarolina.com. But I agree with him. I think that's absolutely when this team first had to show some toughness this year, because if you remember, they were ahead by a comfortable margin. Louisville came out of nowhere. The Tar Heel team had not shown proclivity to be this steady yet. And all of a sudden, this Louisville team with an interim coach, just a couple of junkyard dogs off their bench, nothing to play for at home, started dirtying the game up. North Carolina had a little pucker factor show up, and it got close. And then they had that attempted takedown of Armando Baycott, which, again, Tommy likes to reference. When Carolina gets physical, good things happen. Well, I think that was the first time North Carolina was challenged to be physical. They were not at home, which this team for a long time was a paper tiger as long as they were at home. And I think that when they found a way to win that game while while the fans are throwing things on them on the court, there's a lot of really questionable calls at the end. They just kind of put their heads down and push through. I think that was the moment.
Can I go before you go, Tommy?
I've got mine. I've said mine over and over. You can go ahead.
I think it was the final play at Clemson. Obviously, the Pittsburgh game still happened, right? And that practice afterwards on Sunday after the Pitt loss is definitely the most important. I guess it wasn't Sunday; it was on Thursday. It was the most important practice, but as far as play, that really sent this team on its tracks, and I think really helped Caleb Love more than anything. And Caleb Love even mentioned it last night, which this is one of the first times I've ever really heard him say that he understood what he needed to do to get himself going, and that was drive to the basket. And Caleb had not had a good game leading up to that end of moment in Clemson. But Hubert, and he acknowledged that too. He's like, we knew Caleb still didn't have the good game, but we thought he could do this. They gave him the ball, he drove, and he had the wherewithal to find a cutting Brady Manick to win the game. And since that game, UNC's only lost to Pitt and Virginia Tech, and has been playing their best basketball. And like Greg said, they're playing the best basketball in the country right now. And I think that play, you look back at it, really showed what this team can do as far as clutch situations.
That's a great point out there. I mean, Caleb Love. Yeah, to your point, Caleb Love realized that he doesn't have to shoot 75% from the field. He can still make a difference, and that is hard for players to understand. We saw it with a guy like Bryce Johnson. We've seen it in the past where you can do something else other than score and help your team, and that's good. I'll go back to when Baycott tossed Aluma.
Oh, also counts.
I've been saying that forever.
I like that.
That is when I said, wait a minute now. Because we'd been talking about Baycott was getting frustrated. He was getting beat to death. He was sort of taking it and whining about it a little bit. That was the first time that he took it and he did something about it. And, we talked earlier about Hubert Davis's find the fight, look for a fight, and want the fight, and all that stuff. That is when Baycott showed me watching that he was tired of it. He wasn't going to take it anymore. And it did something about it. And Carolina, I think since then, Carolina has been the tougher team in almost every game they've played.
Was that the first Virginia Tech game?
I think it was the second one. It was the one after the Pitt game where they had to win it.
Yeah, it was at Virginia Tech.
Then yeah,
where they had to get that quad one win.
That's a great answer.
And Tommy's right.
Shout out Stuart Dula. I think he's going to be our winner.
Tommy actually has cited that. Well, we will get in touch with the winner after this break. I'm sitting here watching on the Twitters right now. No, we have a show clock that we have to adhere to, sir.
Don't. Those breaks are fluid. Go ahead.
All right.
Says the guy who's never touched a run sheet in his life.
Jack has been active on YouTube, so I wanted to get one of his questions in, and I like this one he just posted. How big were the final 3 minutes or so of the first half when RJ went to the bench with 2 fouls? I thought we'd fall further behind, but we actually closed the deficit. Now, I want to speak to a larger thing here, and it goes back to Baylor and some other times. And a little football thing. What does Mac Brown always say? What has Mac Brown always said?
Most important, the last 2 minutes of the first half and the first 2 minutes of the second half.
Exactly. And so pointing to what UNC did to close the first half and get it to within 3, considering UCLA was shooting almost 50% and UNC was not even shooting 40% without RJ on the floor, who has been the Joel Berry, Marcus Page floor general the first 2 games, was huge. And it speaks to the togetherness of the team and just their ability, the true next man up mentality. I hate the next man up thing because it's literally every answer that every athlete or coach ever gives, but I understand it's the only thing to say. But it really, truly is that we talk about the Iron Five, we talk about the 4 scorers plus Leaky, but still to be able to play without one of them and close a necessary deficit to carry any sort of momentum into halftime was huge, and it's something that, looking back on this team's tournament run, there will be multiple moments like that. They'll be like, man, this is why that team was able to do what they've done.
What happened immediately after RJ picked up his second, other than Tiger Campbell making the free throws?
Don't know.
Puff Johnson got an offensive rebound and made a layup.
Oh, beautiful. Exactly.
Got fouled.
So
and,
shout out Jack.
I think
for
he
the
missed
question.
a free throw. But that right there, you lose RJ, and everybody's like, oh, my God, here we go. And then Puff steps up.
All right. Speaking of stepping up, we will step up now and end this segment. But before we get to this break, we're going to give some love to our friends at Johnny T-Shirt. Sherelle said last night on the post game, he's coming up today with his daughter. And happy birthday to his little girl who's turning 5. She's going to celebrate by going to Johnny T-Shirt. So if you're on Franklin Street right now and you see Sherelle and his lovely family gallivanting around the campus and the mercantiles on Franklin Street, make sure you give him some love and tell his little girl happy birthday. She's stopping in. She's probably going to use that extra 10% discount you get being an Inside Carolina premium subscriber from Johnny T-Shirt's already amazing prices. We love Johnny T-Shirt. They support us. We want you to support them as well. This clock has been annihilated. We're going to take a quick break, come right back for the last segment of the show. Appreciate all of you guys listening, watching, however you're consuming the show. We appreciate you being here. But we'll be right back for one more segment here on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
I'm Shimon Williams, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
Metal braces aren't your only option anymore. I'm Dr. Kervin Mack with Mack Orthodontics. We offer innovative orthodontics for children and adults. Our diverse services include braces for kids, retainers, clear and invisible braces, surgical orthodontics, and more. We use the most current technique and technology in orthodontics, promising stunning smiles throughout the Burlington and Orange County areas. Start loving your smile.
Make an appointment today at mackortho.com. Accepts most insurance, partial payments, and offers flexible hours.
This is Carolina head coach Mac Brown. Our football team gets the best preparation the night before home games at our home away from home, the new Sheridan Chapel Hill. From comfortable rooms to flexible meeting space, more than 100 players and coaches rest, gather for nutritious meals, and break out in smaller spaces for final game planning and walkthroughs. The Sheridan staff takes care of every detail. Make your home away from home the new Sheridan Chapel Hill, the preferred hotel and meeting space for all Tar Heels.
Come to the Ackland Art Museum to see Peace, Power, and Prestige, Metal Arts in Africa, an exhibition demonstrating the aesthetic and expressive power of metal arts in sub-Saharan Africa from the 12th century to the present day. Open January 28th through April 3rd. Learn more at ackland.org. The Ackland is located at 101 South Columbia Street in downtown Chapel Hill. Admission to the Ackland is always free. The Ackland. Look close, think far.
Pediatric Therapy wants to take a minute for moms and dads. At Emerge Pediatric Therapy, we believe that your child shouldn't have to wait and see when it comes to their language development. Here's Executive Director Brittany Winslow with more.
One of the reasons that parents reach out to us is because their child has been asked to leave their preschool due to behavioral challenges. More often than not, the behavioral challenges have a root in sensory processing that, when seen through a different lens, opens up a whole new way of helping to make the child more successful. At Emerge Pediatric Therapy, we love teaching parents and teachers how to use their own sensory lens to create more success.
Take a Minute for Moms and Dads has been made possible by Emerge Pediatric Therapy, creating confident kids through customized therapy with offices in Carborough, Durham, and Cary. Online at emergepediatrictherapy.com.
Chapel Hill loves to support local business and is filled with amazing shopping and dining centers. This month, we highlight University Place. Known as University Mall since the 1970s, University Place is about to embark on a massive redevelopment, adding many green spaces and over 24 new retail, restaurant, and office spaces. And as this renovation happens, University Place is still open for business, with clothing and jewelry stores, amazing restaurants with indoor-outdoor dining, and many activity-based attractions. Follow along at universityplacenc.com.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live with Tommy Ashley and Joey Powell on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Now this is my groove right here. This is my sweet spot. This is my soft spot on the mattress. This is my cool spot of the pillow. This is where I am comfortable. Is some Stones vibe coming back from a break.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah. Freddie Mercury better than Mick Jagger?
Better for, I mean, just
about it's a yes or no.
What am I comparing him with?
You said Freddie Mercury was the best front man ever.
Yes.
Better than Mick Jagger?
Yes.
I don't buy it.
He's so much of a better singer, dude.
What's a front man?
Oh my God.
Lead singer.
And we've officially ruined the show.
Like Justin Bieber?
Yeah, Justin Bieber
what
I guess
hell?
could be.
No, he's not in a band. You're the worst.
It's too easy, folks. It's too easy to get under these old man's
Not
skins.
me. You get under his skin, you trigger him up. He's like, trigger alert.
I don't
trigger
understand
alert.
how this happens.
It's easy.
All right.
Red light.
Gregory, while you're still trying to destroy the show, can you bring us back up with your stat for the show, please?
Sure. I've got a few.
Don't sound so excited about it.
I've got a few.
You gotta learn how to speak up a little bit, man.
I've got a few here. One, last Tar Heel to score 30 points in the Sweet 16 or later, J.R. Reed, 1987.
Yes.
Now it's Caleb Love.
Well, that would be because it was last night.
What did I say? What was my answer?
Your guess was Al Wood.
So hungry.
39 in the Final Four.
You were off by a couple of. That was a good guess because you weren't off but like 6 or 7 years.
I was at the JRE game against Notre Dame.
6 or 7 years is like half of Gregory's life. So I mean, for you, that's close.
True. All right. First time ever 2 different Tar Heels have scored 30 points in the same NCAA tournament. Hubert Davis.
Hang on. I want to go back to that because we've talked about a couple of
your stats, but hold on, Gregory. Let me.
That's all right.
The man was answering his own questions earlier. I figured this is okay.
That's true. I was actually.
I think, and I've said it before on the show. Anytime you talk about something with regard to North Carolina basketball history as being the first time blank happens in ever. That's impressive because Carolina basketball has been around for 110 years, 115 years, something like that. That's impressive when something is the first time it has ever happened in the history of this program. All right, please carry on.
Of the 8 teams remaining, which
that is the Elite 8. Yes, 8 teams are remaining.
I'm just making sure I'm not missing a team. Of the 8 teams remaining, only Duke has a better 5-man lineup as far as efficiency goes.
I could see that.
Overall, offense and defense, like margin. So efficiency margin, but it's literally by 3.4 on FMI.com. That lineup of Banchero, Griffin, Wendell Moore, Jeremy Roach, and Mark Williams is light years better offensively by like 12 points per 100 possessions. But defensively, UNC has that hands by 10 points per 100 possessions. Hubert Davis is the 9th first-year head coach to lead his team to the Elite 8 in his first season.
Yep. That's go back to your stat about the efficiency.
Yes, sir.
Like the fact that we're talking about this North Carolina team being defensive.
And UNC that lineup has played 600 more possessions than Duke, and they're only 3.4 points margin behind.
Well, and I'm gonna play to Tommy's emotions here, but when Duke forces Trevor Keels into the lineup, they're not as good offensively. Like I know he brings a different like Mark Jackson style back you down
Keel mode,
but they're not as good offensively when he's in there versus Roach, especially right now since Jeremy Roach is scoring.
Jeremy Roach, Taylor Vimple's product.
I've been saying all year that Jeremy Roach is the MVP of that team, and that's why they're where they are now. He would be the one to worry about, and Arkansas. Pig Suey better figure it out.
Can we talk about this? So I want to understand.
That was a question that
I want to understand why. Oh yeah, that's right.
M. Cameron said. Let me find it.
He specifically asked about Tommy
and I. He said, "Can only Tommy and Joey speak to the reasons they like to see UNC Duke in Final Four and reasons they'd hate it? I don't want little G Big E chaos talk." So he wants the old heads to give their takes on why they want to see it and why they don't want to see it.
I don't mind seeing it. I don't really care about that. In the semifinals, like we talked about, and Aaron mentioned it earlier, the semifinals are different than the finals. I never want to see it in the final because I've said before on this show and on the air, if one beats the other for the national championship, it does not matter whatever happens.
It would,
ever.
yeah.
But the reason I don't want to see it on next Saturday is because that K game in Cameron needs to live forever as the last time So, the bottom line is Carolina needs to get there, Duke needs to get there, and then we'll worry about it. But I'm not anti-seeing it as much as Joey may be.
I don't want to see it. No, I fully admit I don't want to see
Why
it.
not?
I mean, well, here's the thing. If you present it to me two different ways, if you want me to see a North Carolina Duke Final Four this year, okay, I'll take it because that means Carolina gets to the Final Four. That's awesome. You get to the Final Four, play whoever's there. That I'm down for.
Okay.
I don't want it like as a hypothetical of, hey, would you like Duke and Carolina to play in the Final Four? No, I never want that from an abstract approach.
Why not?
Because it's there's too much on the line. It absolutely wrecks my cardiac tendencies.
Okay.
I don't need that sort of.
This is not about you. You need to get some of Hubert Davis's
You asked me.
selflessness.
You asked the question to me.
Ask him the question.
Good Lord, man!
Man, you don't get paid by the letter I.
I should have given the answer from Ben Sherman's perspective. Then it would have been. I don't know.
From that perspective, from
Ben wants it.
Ben wants it.
From a content standpoint.
From a
content standpoint.
Ben roots for the site. So anything that is going to drive content.
I think it would be fantastic if it happens. I think that Carolina Duke in the Final Four is a bigger story than St. Peter's.
Yes.
For the college basketball world.
Well, it's like I said earlier, like George Mason getting to the Final Four is cute, but it doesn't make for a good Final Four. Right? Same thing with St. Peter's here. I think it's a great Disney story. It is a feel-good story. It's very much the little engine that could, which is what brings the nation together and non-basketball people into love the environment. But it doesn't make for good basketball in the last weekend of the year, which is what you want ultimately, right?
Did you just give like the ultimate? If you pull for St. Peter's, don't send it to Shaheen Holloway. It's a Disney story. Them dudes can play, man.
Oh, I'm not saying it, but it doesn't mean that it's not
what
a
they
very.
Gonna say now?
It doesn't mean that it's a very Disney-written script.
What's her name was like? What do you mean? Who's saying what?
Who's saying what?
She was not getting that question whatsoever.
Well, it's kind of like the
he
media.
had that
I saw a
pre-decided.
media member say something about the narrative on Twitter and was like, the narrative was set for the ACC in November. Well, who set that narrative?
Right. The media, the same guy writing it. Yes. No, I'm a firm believer in that. When we hear certain coaches talking about how the media pressure has been put on people, well, I mean that can be alleviated. But nonetheless, last comment. We got 30 seconds.
This is hilarious to me. Someone just randomly said, "Remember when NC State scored 24 points in a game?" Just randomly. Yes, I do remember that. It was hilarious.
All right, we got to get out of here.
Final.
We have to get out of here. The show ends. Thank everybody for being here.
Look, I'm getting.
Thank everybody for being here. Thanks to Michael Brooker,
Tommy's walking
Greg
away with
Barnes.
his headphones still on.
Yes, Greg Barnes, Tommy Ashley, Taylor Viplis. I'm Joey Powell for Gregory Hall, Aaron Keck. This is Inside Carolina Live. Late.
If you're more than someone who just checks the scores, I want to introduce you to the place for Tar Heel sports discussion, analysis, and breaking news. Inside Carolina has been the center of the Tar Heel sporting universe for over 20 years, with a team of the best UNC sports reporters around, unrivaled insight, and a vast message board community for round-the-clock discussion with other Tar Heel fans. Your game day begins and ends with InsideCarolina.com.